I started noticing it when my calendar got quiet. Not suddenly, just a few gaps here and there. The Monday check-in disappeared first, then the Thursday pipeline review. I'd open my schedule and see white space where my days used to be blue. That's the kind of silence you only get when someone's rearranging furniture behind your back. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe projects were shifting. Maybe I wasn't needed in every discussion. But then, documents started changing names. Shared drives where I used to upload reports suddenly said archived by Sam. Files I built from scratch were now owned by Linda. A polite kind of erasure, quiet, procedural, and deliberate. Linda was my manager, Sam my coworker, both friendly enough, at least on the surface. Sam had that permanent grin, the one people wear when they're already measuring your desk for a new chair. He'd been at the company a year less than me, but somehow his ideas always made it into Linda's decks. My data, his bullet points. My models, his takeaways. I'd seen it before, but this time it had weight behind it. The first clue came during an ops call. Sam presented a cost analysis that sounded eerily familiar. Down to the rounding, when Linda praised his initiative, I watched my own spreadsheet reflected in his slides, cell by cell, except my name had vanished. I didn't say a word, just muted myself and wrote the timestamp in a small notebook I keep for things I might need later. By the next week, my access to a shared vendor folder was revoked. Streamlining permissions, the IT notice said. Sam and Linda were still in. I wasn't. That's when the air in my chest went cold. Not because I feared losing my job, but because I finally understood what they thought I didn't know. Here's what they didn't know. My title might have said Finance Operations Lead, but for the past 2 years, I'd quietly managed the CFO's discretionary budget approvals, the invisible spine of the company's spend system. Any vendor renewal over $50,000 had to pass through compliance and my verification before it reached the CFO's desk. It wasn't glamorous, but it meant I saw everything. Who bought what, when, and why. I never bragged about it. Not even my manager knew the full scope. It wasn't secret, just buried in the workflow. But it gave me a front row seat to the company's bloodstream. If money flowed through it, I saw the pulse. And lately I'd been noticing a new vendor name appearing in pre-approval drafts, one that hadn't gone through procurement vetting. Sam's name appeared on the project notes, Linda's initials in the approval column. I stayed quiet. When people build their own traps, it's best not to interrupt. Still, there's a particular ache in being sidelined by people you helped. Sam used to ask me how to reconcile budget variances. Linda leaned on me to explain the reporting logic behind her forecasts. Now they spoke to me like I was temporary, like they were already writing the email that would announce my transition. I'd come home tired, not from work, but from restraint. My wife asked why I didn't just go to HR. I told her something that made her frown. Policy doesn't need an audience. It just needs patience. So I watched. I took screenshots of permissions. I downloaded meeting summaries where my name vanished between versions. I didn't gossip, didn't retaliate, didn't even correct Linda when she told the VP that Sam built the new reporting framework. Let the record show itself. The real moment it clicked wasn't even dramatic. Linda called me into a quick one-on-one. One of those just want to check in meetings that smell like smoke before you see the fire. She smiled the way managers do before they hand you a development opportunity. You've been doing solid work, but I think it's time we rotate responsibilities, she said. Rotate. That word. The corporate version of step aside. Sam will take lead on vendor analytics for a few months. I'd like you to focus on documentation and support tasks. Support tasks, from leading cross-department audits to updating templates. I nodded slowly, like it didn't land. Sounds fine, I said. Should I transfer access rights to Sam? Yes, please, she said too quickly. And keep things smooth. I'll make sure leadership knows you're being flexible. That last line told me everything. This wasn't a rotation, it was preparation. I left the meeting calm, went back to my desk, wrote the date, the summary, and her exact phrasing in my notebook. I don't react to betrayal with anger, I catalog it. Every slight is a data point, and I build dashboards for a living. By Friday, Sam was forwarding me final drafts of my own reports for proofreading. He'd even added a cheery note. Appreciate your help, man. Linda says I should take ownership so you can focus on the process side. I replied with one line, noted. That weekend, I took my laptop home, poured a drink, and opened the vendor records for the quarter. There it was again, the same new vendor, now with a proposal totaling $74,000. No procurement tags, no competitive quotes. And the approval trail, Linda's signature, Sam's justification, and my empty slot waiting at the bottom. They thought I was out, but that line, that bottom slot, was mine to sign. And without it, the transaction wouldn't clear finance. I stared at it for a long time, the cursor blinking under approval pending. Then I closed the laptop, not out of mercy, out of method. Because if they wanted to play politics, I'd let policy answer back. Tomorrow, I'd start the quiet part of my job, the one nobody sees until it's too late, and this time, I wouldn't warn them. Monday morning started with an email that looked harmless. Subject line, Pilot Project, Streamlined Vendor Onboarding. No greeting, just a summary, a few bullet points, and a line at the bottom. Sam will lead the pilot. Please support where needed. Support where needed. The phrase burned quietly behind my eyes. I wasn't surprised. I'd seen enough reorganizations to know when someone's already erased your name before they hit send. Still, it felt different when I opened the attachment and saw my own budget template, the one I'd built to monitor compliance thresholds, now titled Draft by Sam W. I read it 3 times. Then I printed it, stapled it neatly, and filed it in a drawer labeled If Needed. By midweek, Linda called a quick sync. Her tone was syrupy. Hey, just wanted to loop you in. Sam's vendor has this amazing platform we think could simplify approvals. We're fast-tracking it for efficiency. Fast-tracking, another corporate word that really means skipping the rules when convenient. I nodded. Has procurement reviewed it? She hesitated. Just enough. They'll get the documentation later. We're just testing right now. Testing was $74,000. Sure. I left her office and sent myself a copy of the project summary. That afternoon, I filed a standard spend request review, the one that automatically triggers an RFP once a pilot exceeds $50,000. Nothing personal, just a compliance process doing what it's designed to do. By Thursday, I was officially out of the loop. Sam was now driving alignment. Linda copied me less, and the team chat grew quiet when I joined. The usual signs of social quarantine. At lunch, my friend Olivia from procurement messaged me privately. Hey, weird. Your name's missing on the pilot request. Thought you owned this spend? I typed back. Apparently not. Then keep me posted when it hits your queue. She replied with a single emoji, the zipped mouth face. That was enough. 2 days later, Linda scheduled a quick feedback session. It lasted 45 minutes. She smiled through the entire thing, the kind of rehearsed compassion that HR workshops call empathetic leadership. She said I'd been less engaged and slow to adapt to dynamic changes. Sam nodded in the corner like a student who already knew the grade. I didn't argue. I asked her to send the feedback in writing for documentation purposes. That was when the smile cracked, just slightly. She agreed. I left the meeting with a polite handshake and a digital paper trail. That night, I opened my notebook. I'd logged every meeting removed from my calendar. It was every shared doc re-owned. Every phrase like a rotation, support, transition. Data doesn't lie. It just waits for context. The next morning, I took that data and fed it into the system. Literally, I filed the internal form that triggers a conflict of interest attestation, a quarterly requirement most managers click through without reading. It cross-references vendor submissions, employee disclosures, and approval logs. Nobody thinks about it until compliance flags a name. Then I started the second lever. Access review. AITA receives a notice to verify user permissions in shared folders for active projects. If someone edits documents they no longer own, it pings security. Sam had been revising those budget sheets past midnight. I knew because the metadata said so. By lunch, both reviews were running quietly in the background. No fireworks, no confrontation, just processes doing their job. Still, the irritation lingered. Watching people strip you of credit is one thing. Watching them weaponize your silence is another. Sam started using phrases I'd written in emails. Visibility into spend risk, aligning budget gates. The language sounded like me, spoken by someone else in a louder room. I told myself not to take it personally. But that's the lie we tell to survive offices, that professionalism means pretending disrespect doesn't sting. The CFO visited our floor that Friday. He rarely does. Linda nearly levitated from her chair. "Perfect timing," she chirped. "We're just implementing a new pilot project. Huge efficiency potential." The CFO smiled politely. "Which vendor?" Linda said the name. He frowned. "That didn't go through procurement." Her face tightened. "We're testing before formal approval." He turned to me. "Are we funding this test?" I met his eyes. "Pending budget verification." He nodded once, slow, deliberate. "Let me know when it's verified." After he left, Linda called me into her office, voice sharp now. "Why would you say that in front of him?" "Because it's true," I said. She exhaled hard. "You're making me look bad." "I didn't say anything untrue." "You're not being a team player. You know that?" "Team players don't rig the scoreboard." She blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," I said, standing, "just noting the pattern." That night, Olivia from procurement sent me a message. "Heads up, the RFP triggered. Vendor must submit full COI forms. Something's off. Their point of contact shares a last name with one of your teammates." I didn't reply right away. I just leaned back in my chair and let the irony sink in. Over the weekend, the compliance team reached out to confirm the budget threshold. "Routine," they said. "Happens every quarter." They didn't know this one would land on Linda's desk Monday morning. By now, Sam had grown smug, walking around like he owned oxygen. He even stopped by my cubicle with fake friendliness. "No hard feelings, man. You'll bounce back." I looked up from my screen. "Bounce from where?" He smiled. "You know how it is. Some of us move up, some stay steady." "Right," I said. "Steady's good. Keeps the floor from collapsing." He didn't get it. He never would. That night, I saved a backup of every file in the vendor directory. Not because I needed proof anymore, but because I wanted the story told accurately when the lights came on. And they were about to. Because the compliance audit that Sam and Linda triggered without realizing it was scheduled for the following Wednesday. And this time, they'd be the ones answering the questions. But that was just the beginning. Wednesday started quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm you can already smell. I'd arrived early, coffee in hand, inbox cleared, notes ready. At 9:12, the first email hit. Subject: Compliance review. Immediate attention required. Linda's name was on it. So was Sam's. Mine wasn't. The audit notification went out company-wide. A standard quarterly check, they said. Just a routine vendor assessment. But I knew better. It was the RFP trigger I'd filed 2 weeks earlier coming to life. The system had matched the vendor's point of contact to an employee's disclosed network. Sam's friend. Same last name. Same home address on LinkedIn. By 9:30, the finance floor was buzzing. People whispered around the copy machine, pretending to print. Sam's office door was shut. Linda's blinds were half closed, the universal sign of a meeting she didn't schedule. At 10:05, my phone pinged. A calendar invite. Budget clarification meeting. From the CFO's executive assistant. Attendees: CFO, HR, legal, procurement, Linda, Sam, and me. I took a sip of coffee. Finally, the meeting started exactly at 11 hot. The CFO's tone was calm, surgical. "We've had some discrepancies flagged during the audit," he said. "I'd like to walk through them together." Linda tried to smile. "Of course. I should probably just administrative cleanup." "Possibly," the CFO said. "Let's see." He turned his screen. The vendor's file filled the monitor. Highlighted lines, timestamps, access logs. Procurement had done their job. Every edit was traceable. Every bypass documented. Sam's credentials had modified project data 3 times after hours. Linda's sign-off came without a procurement approval number. The CFO looked at me. "You were the final approver?" "Yes," I said evenly, "but I hadn't signed yet. It was pending verification." He nodded once. "Good." Linda's face lost color. "I must have missed the threshold limit." Procurement's manager spoke up. "The form clearly states any amount above 50,000 requires RFP routing. It was 74. Sam shifted in his chair. "That was just a placeholder. We didn't actually process payment." The CFO's eyes didn't move. "But you authorized vendor onboarding." Sam's mouth opened, closed. "It was just a pilot." The CFO folded his hands. "Pilots still require policy." For the next 20 minutes, the room filled with the slow grind of truth being uncovered. Linda blamed miscommunication. Sam blamed process ambiguity. Every defense was a new confession. Every small oversight was another breadcrumb to intent. When it ended, the CFO stood. "Thank you, everyone. Linda, I'll need you and Sam to stay behind. The rest of you are dismissed." I gathered my notes, calm as glass. Sam avoided eye contact. Linda stared at her tablet like she could edit reality if she just kept scrolling. Outside, Olivia from procurement passed by. She raised an eyebrow. That went fast. "Efficiency," I said. "Feels like karma?" she replied. I didn't smile. Karma's too poetic. This was just accountability doing its job. By afternoon, HR began confidential interviews. Rumors moved faster than the official memo. People stopped by my desk pretending to ask for data they didn't need. Someone whispered that legal was checking personal email activity tied to the vendor. Another said Linda had stormed out of a call, white as paper. At 4:15, the CFO called me into his office. He didn't waste time. "Good work holding the line." "I just followed policy," I said. He studied me for a moment. "That's exactly what too few people do. I need you to stabilize the budget group while we clean this up." "I can do that," I replied carefully. "Temporarily." "Understood," he said. "You'll report directly to me until further notice." I walked out with a new access badge waiting in my inbox. No title change, no fanfare, just quiet authority. At 6 AQ, I was packing my bag when I heard voices down the hall. Linda, loud, breaking composure. "You can't suspend me for this. It's a misunderstanding." Then Sam, lower, urgent. "You said you cleared it." I didn't move. Didn't need to. The hallway carried every word. HR escorted them both out 30 minutes later. No handcuffs. Just silence and security badges deactivated at the door. The office felt smaller afterward, like someone had vacuumed the tension out and left a cleaner kind of air. That night, I drove home without music, just road noise and the low hum of relief. But it wasn't satisfaction yet. Not the kind that stays. Because rebalancing justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like returning to normal gravity, after months of pretending the floor wasn't tilting. The next morning, a company-wide email landed. Subject, leadership transition, finance operations. Effective immediately, Sam, last name, is no longer with the company. Linda, last name, has chosen to pursue new opportunities. Interim oversight will be managed by CFO's name and narrator's name. No signature from HR, just policy, just truth, formalized. By noon, my inbox was full of polite congratulations from people who hadn't spoken to me in weeks. "Glad to see you're still around. You always kept things steady." Knew you'd land on your feet? I answered none of them. Silence can be its own boundary. That afternoon, Olivia appeared at my desk holding 2 coffees. You realize you just played chess with people who thought they were moving checkers? I shrugged. I didn't play. I just let the rules move. She smirked. Still, that was surgical. Not surgery, I said. Housekeeping. Later, when the office finally emptied, I sat in the glow of my monitor, scrolling through the last compliance report. Every signature in place, every number balanced, every line clean. For the first time in months, my calendar looked full again. Not of meetings, but of my own making. Still, a part of me knew it wasn't over. Because when people fall, they tend to drag others with them, or try to. And I didn't know it yet, but that decision, the one I thought ended the story, would cost them everything. When the storm ends, it doesn't announce it. It just leaves quietly, like it was never there. The Monday after Linda's resignation, the office was strange in its calm. No hushed arguments behind blinds, no frantic messages asking for urgent clarifications. People spoke softer, typed slower. It was like the building itself had exhaled. My badge still worked. That alone said enough. At 9, I sat in what used to be Linda's chair, not because I wanted it, but because someone had to sign the vendor queue. The CFO stopped by with his usual stillness, the kind of presence that fills a room without sound. Appreciate the cleanup, he said. Wasn't really me, I replied. Policy did the heavy lifting. He smiled slightly. Good policies need good hands. Let's talk next steps. He offered me the department, officially. Title, pay bump, all of it. I said no. He blinked. No? I'll stabilize it, sure, but I'm not interested in managing the politics that come with the title. I prefer results to applause. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Understood. I'll put you under my umbrella directly. Adjusted compensation, flexible schedule. You'll have my backing. No org chart needed. That was the first promotion I'd ever taken where the reward wasn't power, but peace. The following weeks were simple. I reinstated proper approval gates, rebuilt the forecasting models, and trained 2 juniors who still looked nervous around me. They'd been in the room when Linda snapped. They expected me to be vindictive. I wasn't. I just taught them how to do the job right. When they asked why I wasn't bitter, I told them something that made one of them tear up. Resentment is just unpaid labor for people who already quit on you. The audit findings became official 3 weeks later. Sam's employment was terminated for "I'm a violation of internal conflict of interest policy." Linda's exit memo cited organizational restructuring. No one said her name out loud anymore, but people remembered. The CFO forwarded me the final compliance summary with 1 line. Good call on holding signature. I replied, good call on trusting process. That night, I walked home instead of driving. The air felt cleaner, the kind that doesn't need validation. My wife met me at the door, curious but calm. Over? She asked. Over enough, I said. She smiled. And them? They made choices, I said simply, and choices send invoices. Over the next month, the department found its rhythm again. Fewer meetings, clearer goals, more laughter that didn't sound forced. I stopped watching over my shoulder. I didn't need to. One afternoon, while cleaning up the shared drive, I found a forgotten folder, labeled Pilot Tanner Project Archive. Inside were Sam's drafts, the ones that started it all. I hovered over the delete key for a moment. Then I moved the files to a compliance folder titled Resolved. Not Revenge, Record. A week later, a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn. Apparently, Linda had applied for a financial director role at a partner firm. They wanted a reference. I declined the call politely and wrote a single sentence. Please refer to her compliance record. It's comprehensive. They didn't call again. As for Sam, word spread he'd tried consulting work, but couldn't get vendor clearance with a COI violation on his file. I didn't gloat. Some lessons only stick when they hurt in private. My days became quieter. Spreadsheets, morning coffee, small jokes with Olivia. I worked from home 3 days a week, CFO's full blessing. I built a small garden on my balcony, something steady to 10 that didn't involve people. Occasionally, I'd catch myself thinking about the whole ordeal, how simple it was in the end. I didn't expose them through anger or scheming. I just held the line everyone else pretended didn't exist. Policy isn't glamorous, it doesn't go viral, but it never lies. One Friday evening, just before logging off, I got an email from the CFO. Budget stabilized. Vendor risk 0. Nice work. Enjoy the weekend. No emojis. No fanfare. Just the kind of acknowledgement that means everything when it's earned the quiet way. I closed my laptop, leaned back in my chair, and let the silence sit there. Full, complete, earned. The company kept running. People moved on. A new manager came in 6 months later. Young, eager, careful. She asked me once what had really happened before she arrived. I told her the truth, stripped of drama. Someone tried to climb by pulling the floor out from under me. They forgot I built the foundation. She laughed softly. And you just let it collapse? No, I said. I let gravity do what it always does. That night, after dinner, I sat on my balcony, phone face down, city humming below. No noise, no unfinished business. Just peace, the kind you don't announce because it stays only if you don't touch it too much. People think revenge feels like victory. They're wrong. It feels like silence finally sounding right.